We give God praise and thank Him for this new day that He's given us an opportunity to go forth and thrive in His name, to live life clothed in our right minds with all of our faculties, from the crown of our head to the sole of our feet. So I thank the Lord for that grace and favor that He's extended to us and given us another chance here to share the words of grace and truth. Today I want to talk to you about something that influences us for better or for worse. And that is something known as deliberate suggestions. That's the title of our study. Deliberate suggestions. In our vineyard every day, the power of suggestion is in play. A lucky rabbit foot, a pill, fast food, all white males in leadership jobs in the federal government, all white males in leadership jobs in the state government, all white males in leadership jobs in local or city or municipal government, all white males in CEO positions in private businesses, in leadership, in executive leadership positions. What do these things have in common? Their effects. They all have their effects. Whether we do well on a test or whether we feel better as a result of a pill, or whether we are able to quickly obtain food and become full and nourished as a result of consuming fast food, or whether we believe that because we have leadership that is all white male, that we are better off, or we will be better off with that structure. It is a deliberate suggestion that's being made. All these things depend on the power of suggestion. They depend and they influence what we expect. And they influence behavior for better or for worse. We have 3 Bible spelling words. Our first Bible spelling word is the word deliberate. Deliberate is defined by Webster as meaning done or said in a way that is planned or intended. Our second Bible spelling word is the word suggestion. And suggestion is defined by Webster as meaning the process by which a physical or mental state is influenced by a thought or idea. A second definition for the word suggestion is a word that you've heard, I'm sure. But when you hear this word, it simply means suggestion. Insinuation. Insinuation. Suggestion is a process by which one thought leads to another, especially through association of ideas. One thought leads to another. So those things that you heard me mention at the beginning of our study, a lucky rabbit foot, a pill, fast food, or white people in leadership jobs in the federal government, in the state government, local government, in CEO positions or in private sector companies, all white males. It's a process by which one thought is intended to lead to another. And so there's one word that I want to introduce and I want you to think about in this in this study, and that is the word diversity. And the word diversity, although it's not a Bible spelling word, it is a word that forces us to deal with the total, the total mixture, the diversity. But that still does not stop the deliberate suggestions. And there are deliberate suggestions that were put in place throughout man's existence, and more so in this country, deliberate suggestions. It was thought that people came to this country for religious freedom, but they came to this country and imposed some of the same restrictions and institutionalized the same type of behavior that was present in the lands that they came from. Deliberate suggestions done with the intention of influencing behavior of those who are observing it for better or for worse. Our last Bible spelling word is the word effect. Effect. And I mentioned earlier that those things that I mentioned, those items I mentioned earlier, those things I mentioned, they all have one thing in common. They have something in common, and it's their effect. What is an effect? An effect means to make, and you can put in parentheses, something happen. A second definition for effect, which is very appropriate for the study, is to cause to come into being. To cause to come into being. And therein lies the crux of deliberate suggestions, is to cause to come into being what is being inferred, what is being suggested, what is being done to influence a person's mental or physical state, to influence by a thought or an idea. It's intentional. But those images, those deliberate suggestions, those things that have effect as has a common component of effect that I mentioned, they were there with the intention of delivering and influencing behavior of those who are observing them, for better or for worse. And who you are and where you sit would depend on how you view these deliberate suggestions. And these deliberate suggestions are not just somewhere in some other country. These deliberate suggestions are in your community, in your vineyard, in the country you live in. These deliberate suggestions have been a part of the institution of man throughout man's existence. Deliberate suggestions done or said in a way that it was planned or intended. It was done on purpose to influence the physical or mental state of a person with an idea, with a thought. Done to influence what people think and how people behave with an idea or thought. Today, I want to raise your awareness to things that are done or said on purpose in your vineyard. Things that are done in such a way, things that are done or said on purpose in your vineyard that's done in such a way as to influence your mental or physical state by conveying thoughts or ideas that may not be to your good. But also, I want to raise your awareness that there are things that we must do to ensure that things that are conveyed, or thoughts or ideas that are conveyed, are not just for the worse for us, but also for our betterment. That's why the Lord God, Jehovah, sent representatives to his people throughout the Bible, because there were deliberate suggestions being made that were not aligned with God's will or his desires for his people. And those deliberate suggestions serve to do nothing, that made by man, serve to do nothing but to enslave or to bound mankind, to cause God's creation to live beneath their privileges, cause God's people to have a perspective about life that was not consistent with God's desire for his people. So much so that the Lord sent representatives throughout the Old Testament to right that which was wrong. New Testament, he sent his son Jesus to right that which was wrong, to enlighten God's people about these deliberate suggestions that were causing life to be harder for them because of their influence upon them, because of what these suggestions automatically cause God's people to do. You have to recognize that these suggestions automatically, when played out in your vineyard, these suggestions pre-program answers for you. These suggestions pre-program what you are capable of doing and what you are incapable of doing. These suggestions pre-program that you are good or you are not. These suggestions make it appear that some are better than others. But the word declares unto us that ye shall know the truth, and the truth is what will make you free. The reason why the word declares that message is because it is the truth that breaks down, that casts down these deliberate suggestions that cause life to be worse for God's people. These deliberate suggestions, these subliminal suggestions that cause God's people to subconsciously believe that they cannot achieve, to subconsciously believe that it is impossible for them to be, to subconsciously believe that only a certain group of people have the ability to be. And that is a lie. God's word is for all of us. The gift of life, God gave it to all of us to profit or to benefit from. But some, in their zeal to survive, deliberately put forth suggestions with the intention of making people mentally and physically behave and accept limitations that are not real. Jesus spoke about this in the Word. But the Word also declares unto us, he who has an ear, let him hear. So today, I pray that you have an ear to hear what's being said to you today. And from this moment forward, you will have a new perspective about your journey in the Lord. Go with me to St. Matthew 10. That's where our Bible verse comes from. St. Matthew 10. And it comes out of the 16th verse, and it reads, Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Our Bible verse comes out of the book of St. Matthew 10, verse 16. And here are the words that Jesus Christ was speaking to his disciples, those who would choose to follow him. And he's communicating a message that I think is very key for us to understand. He's giving people who do not know what God's reality is, who cannot see, who do not have the lens about their life to see the world through God's reality. They're not able to, they're in bondage. So he's trying to open their eyes with truth. That's why the word God is free, because it is intended to free people. And so he's trying to open their eyes with truth. And what truth is he trying to communicate here? He's telling us of something about values and ethics and character of people who are living in the earth. From God's point of view, he said, I am sending you to live and to thrive among wolves. That's what he's saying here. I'm sending you. I'm sending you to live and to thrive among wolves. Think about it. A sheep being sent to live among wolves. Logically, that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? If you think about the nature of a sheep and the nature of wolves, it doesn't make sense that you would send sheep to go and hang out in areas where wolves are. But that's exactly what Jesus is saying. He's saying, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. I'm sending you forth in the areas where you will be among wolves. You're going to live among wolves. Your community, there will be wolves. What then are wolves? Wolves are predators. They are predators who are threats to certain people living among them. That's what wolves are. And anybody that lives in any animal that lives in the vicinity of wolves, they will be viewed as prey by the wolves. The wolves are, in this analogy, Jesus is talking about, the wolves are people who use persistence. This is what wolves do. Wolves use persistent eradication efforts. Now, if that doesn't sound good to you, that's because it is not good, especially if you're on the other side of this. But wolves use persistent eradication efforts. Persistent meaning that they don't give up. Eradication meaning their intention is to do what? Eliminate you, or to control you, or to take advantage of you, to destroy you. Wolves do this by hunting. They hunt you, they trap you, and then they destroy you. What Jesus is talking about, people who are using persistent eradication efforts to do this. People searching for people who are vulnerable in the community. People searching for people who are gullible in the community. people searching for people who they believe they can take advantage of in the community, with the goal to reduce the number of undesirable people living in the vineyard. That's what these wolves are. The wolves are intending to control the people or reduce the number of people in the vineyard that they don't appreciate, that they don't respect.
Oh, praise be to God, from whom all blessings flow. It is our prayer at Clay Family Ministries that your life has been increased with the increase of God through this study. We appreciate and are thankful for your fellowship during this life skills study segment.